backgrounds kind of blend a lot, don't they? Sorry about the huge delay. To be completely honest, I still have the pseudo-migraine in the background. It's just subsided enough that I was like, you know what? This is taking too damn long. Oh, too loud. So, why don't we play some Chrono Trigger? Now, this upcoming section is what we in the business refer to using technical terms. From what I would like to call an engineering perspective, freaking awesome. Now, in the original English version, is it this guy? Where the heck? Okay, there was an NPC in here who referenced a specific line of thought from philosophy, which was basically, how do you know which is the dream and which is the dreamer? Which is something that's been referenced many times in many other works. Has actually said a particular work I don't care for, if I'm being 100% honest, but the gentleman in question kind of twisted it. He was like, how do I know I am not a butterfly dreaming I am a man? Or a bowling ball dreaming I am a plate of sashimi? I liked that line. By the way, fun fact, I actually went looking into this because I noticed there were no references to the square table. I did a little digging. Did you guys know that in the GBA translation of FF6 and the DS translation of Chrono Trigger, they removed both of the square references? In other words, in FF6 in the GBA version, it doesn't say the world is square. I forget what it actually says, but you know, it says something else. Which was a direct and obvious reference to Squaresoft themselves. And in this one, the Knights of the Square Table, which, again, was a direct and obvious reference to Squaresoft, has been completely eradicated. I wonder why the heck that is, because that seems strange. It's not like they're not still Square. They're just not Squaresoft anymore. Then again, maybe there was some kind of, you know, respect or whatever thing in that, with people wanting to be respectful towards the old people and wanting people to, you know, not confuse them with the old guard and that kind of thing. And I just reloaded chat because nobody said anything for the last 3 minutes. And that's pretty unusual for me. It's entirely possible no one's here. That's fine. I'll just play for my YouTube viewers at home. Although I suppose most of my viewers are at home, so I guess that's not actually saying so much, but whatever. Okay, so let's, yeah, let's go ahead and do that now. Hang on. We gotta switch around a couple things. Hey, Death God Scythe. What's up? There we go. Hey, Samurai. I actually did sleep for quite a while and had some extremely weird dreams. I actually dreamed I was streaming. Although, to be completely honest, that is actually kind of common for me. I'm not trying that like, oh no, I'm dreaming. No, it is actually very normal for me to dream that I am streaming. Excuse me, yes, I do have a Twitter, and it should be notifying on my Twitter when I go streaming. In fact, let's go check right now, shall we? Really quick, while we're hanging out here. Just really quick here. Oh, shoot. Okay, I can't check my Twitter for reasons that would take too long to explain. So, I do know if I'm on the Twitter. I presume that I am. Okay, so there was a Twitter notification. Yay! Hey, Progressive. Yes, I am literally seconds away from fighting Dalton. By the way, I like these news, they literally say nothing. So I also like how, for lack of a better way to put it, stupid all these people are. If you don't understand what I mean, they are so convinced of their own superiority and their own position in the world that the idea that they're about to complete the Undersea Palace, activate the Mammon Machine much, much closer to Lavos, is going to be this wonderful, amazing thing for them. That being said, I still don't delight in what's about to happen because, ugh. There we go. Hey, Wraith. Yes, I feel a little bit better. Still headaching, but screw it. I've only got so many hours to stream today anyways, so I wanted to get at least the Undersea Palace section. And now, Dalton, the Arrow Dalton Imperial. This is one of 2 times Dalton actually fights us. He's a unique boss fight. Because he's actually fully controllable. If you don't fully understand what I mean by that, you can literally control everything he does. His actions are 100% predicated based on yours. So if you hit him with a fire attack, oh, yeah, this is a bad example, but you know, he counterattacks with this stuff, and yeah, you see how this kind of works out. Now, what I actually need to do, he has like no HP too. Now there is a trick to this fight, which I'm gonna have to deal with in a moment. Notice how he counters whether you hit him or not. By the way, that's an interesting little touch. This is my common strategy for Dalton, though. Although, admittedly, when I'm in New Game Plus, this usually doesn't take even this long. I don't actually remember if you can die from Iron Sphere. Oh yeah, by the way, he counters everything. Like, you notice how I used a potion? He actually countered that. It's kind of silly. Come on. Hit him. I guess we'll find out in a minute if you can die from it. In other games, in certain RPGs, you can't die from having attacks. Like, it's literally impossible. It'll get to the point where you have 1 HP left, and then it will start doing 0 damage, because it rounds down. In some games, it rounds up. AKA, you can die from it because you'll get to 1 health, and then it will do 1 damage, because it's rounding up, right? We'll find out in a second. I don't know if you can die from this one. Like I said, we'll just kind of... Well, of course he burps, and those 2 are about to fall over as a result of that. If you ever kill him, jeez Louise. Now, I did a specific strategy in bringing Luca here, which may or may not have been a good idea. We'll find out in a little bit. I'm gonna go blow this really quick. We'll just be on the safe side. Hey, Deacon. So as you can see, this is a bizarre fight and isn't actually hard. The only thing that makes this fight even the tiniest bit tricky is the fact that you have to be prepared for his burp, aka his flatulence, depending on which version you're playing. It'd be nice if they'd actually hit him. There we go. Okay, it's still a burp in the DS version. In the original Japanese version, that was not a burp. Also, it's funny because Dalton's motives are extremely simple, and yet very easy to understand. He wants to live forever. Insert Queen song here. But really, that's it. That's all he's got. He is a summoner, for all intents and purposes, who wants to live forever. That's it. He thinks that Lavos is the best method of doing that, which, not really technically valid, maybe? Who knows? And when it becomes clear that it isn't, he gives up on that immediately. He says, screw it, I'm just going to rule the world. Which actually amuses me greatly. Let's go ahead and get rid of those berserkers for what we're about to do. Oh, excuse me. And... sure. Hey, Nero's ass. I'm glad you had a good day. Excuse my sniffling and snuckling. Oh, whip. So yeah, we really need a triple party for this setup. Actually, we're going to go ahead and bring Clan instead. He's kind of already set up. Give him that. There we go. Alright. Now, if I'm being honest, there's actually one other thing I'd really prefer to do instead of this. But, well... screw it. What do you guys think? Should I go with a bravery strat or a safety strat? Because there's something I could go do to make the upcoming significantly difficult boss fight much, much easier. It will involve going out of my way a little bit, but, you know, I can do that. So what do you guys think? Yes, no? I should do a poll. There. Voted up. Whoops. Oh, cool, and there's us. Which one did you play? Because I've played quite a few of those myself. Over the yaws. Alright, so far I see exactly one vote. Oh wait, that's zero. We have zero. Where are all my viewers? Nobody's here today. I feel so lonely. Sniffle. Oh, you're voting for bravery, not safety. Okay, so bravery. Well, while you guys are voting, I might as well show off the cutscene. I mentioned that the Undersea Palace is amazing. It contains one of my favorite songs, like across gaming in general. Never mind just Chrono Trigger. It has a lot of significant differences to it. Excuse me. It shows this cutscene which is about to play, which never happens before or since in the entire game, in order to emphasize the significance of this moment. You get to see the dungeon only for a few seconds underneath the water. Only for this one time. It's literally the only time we ever see it. There's no way to repeat the cutscene. The Masa and Mune are both in the palace and add to the overall dread and tension of the section. There are occasional cutscene flashes. We're going to go forward to Zeal and the actual Mammon machine to learn what's going about that. All of this just screams, in a story perspective, to add to the tension and build-up of this scene. By the way, another fun fact, the only reason we can get to the palace is Dalton opened the way for us. So yeah, that scene right there is awesome. And then there's this song. So we're going to go ahead. First of all, we're going to add a plus to graphics for this entirety of the Undersea Palace, including that intro, and a plus for this song. We're also going to add a plus to story and to gameplay. I'll explain the story. Well, I've kind of already explained the story one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bam. The gameplay one, though, that's a unique one. I'll go ahead and explain that one right now. In my opinion, what they do here, again, this is the fake last dungeon. This is the real fake last dungeon. Magus's Lair? No, that wasn't it. So yeah, the first thing that happens, we can't even do the Undersea proper until we talk to Massa, or Mune, I forget which one that is. And we see several of the toadies of Queen Zeal, the Prophet, who has earned the right to be here, and Shala, along with Queen Zeal herself. Note that she's often just called Queen, by the way. We actually have no idea what her name is, and indeed probably never will, since we know for a fact Zeal is actually her last name. Or, in fact, might be her. It's either her last name or her title. We know it's not her first name. Really, Sway USA? That's actually quite unique. I've noticed most people tend to. I mean, I've met plenty of other people who like video game music, but most people who do tend to enjoy different things. And yeah, as I was going to point out, Shiryu, and again, this is another reason this gets a gameplay benefit. This is if under technically, you know, if you want to pull it technically, this is the second to last dungeon in the game. There's only one other mandatory dungeon after this point in time, not counting New Game Plus stuff. Okay, I'm not counting the way you can beat the game early. Not counting any of that. Even on the first time through, there's only one other dungeon after that, and that's the Blackbird, which is a. Well, we'll talk about the Blackbird when we get there. But the other way, the other gameplay way that this place is the last dungeon. Can you see those enemies down there? Do you see, well, these enemies right here? You may or may not understand, but what I'm trying to get at here. But basically, virtually all, like I think a little under 3/4 of the enemies in this area have unique sprites that have never been seen before. These aren't unique. We saw these in Magus's lair, now that I'm thinking about it. But there are quite a few enemies here who are brand new sprites we will see after this, sometimes in the side quest stuff, sometimes in the Omen. But they did that specifically so the player is like, oh, I don't recognize any of this stuff, right? There we go. So that's a gameplay, that in addition to the massive amounts of experience and loot you get here, really helps you to think, oh god, this really is the last dungeon. And the best part is, this is great. I actually sat down, I actually have been, as I've been going through this, I've had a few reference materials on the side I've been using to help me correlate some theories and thoughts and whatnot. One of them I was looking at was a list of all, it's basically a strategy guide, you know, it's all the items, all the enemies, their HP, their XP, you know, all that fun stuff, right? I was looking at this area and I noticed a trend because there was something I remembered in the back of my mind. When I play the Undersea Palace, I tend to think of the gear as a gameplay reward for this place. I mean, there's obvious story rewards for this, which I don't even feel like is the need to reference. But there's a tremendous amount of gear benefit to the Undersea Palace, but it's bizarrely wonderfully designed. In other words, there's actually less loot in the Undersea Palace than there are in the previous 2 dungeons, not counting Mount Woe. There's actually less chests and less gear, or less items you can get. However, almost every chest you get in the Undersea Palace, all but like 3, give you a piece of gear rather than an item or an elixir, you know, elixir, magic thing, that kind of a thing. So, for example, the Aeon Helm. Now, the other thing, this is so brilliant. Hey, Brakeman, by the way. This is so damn brilliant. In addition to that, all the gear you get here is actually some of the best gear in the game. It's not the best gear in the game. It is, in fact, what I like to call third tier. In other words, best gear in the game, second best gear in the game, which you get mostly for the side quests and the main quest, or not the main quest, the stealing thing. And then the third best gear in the game, which you get here in the Undersea Palace. So you get really, really nice gear, which gives you benefits and status immunities and special effects and all that fun stuff. In addition to the fact that these enemies are unique, in addition to the fact that there's tons of them, in addition to the fact that it's got this awesome music. I mean, we're walking around this awesome platform before some pseudo-lava pits of God knows what. I mean, I don't even know how to explain how awesome this last section is. However, I'm not even done yet. Now, I can't showcase this properly because I suck, but under normal circumstances, if you are playing this game normally for the first time, and you get to this point in the game, you're going to see something that is a final trick on behalf of the developers to make you think this is the last dungeon. Ready for this? This is brilliant. I'll showcase it in just a second because I gotta kill this guys. Oh shush, Titans. I would definitely live in the Undersea Palace if given a choice. Okay, so let's get Frog good to go really quick. Hey, little Billy. You know, I was playing Kirby Rainbow whatever recently, and I just randomly thought of you while I was doing it. Okay. So again, I'm not actually set up for this probably because I've been skipping stuff, but... Okay. Maybe I kind of am. Look at that. I kind of am. Even though I've been skipping stuff, in like 2 more battles, I will have Frenzy, aka Confuse, and the next tech after that is Luminaire, aka his final tech. In other words, In other words, it's the final way the developers trick you, because you look at the text you have and it's like, hey, I've got almost all of the text in the game. And you're not supposed to logically, consciously think about that. You're just supposed to, in the back of your mind, be like, oh, this is the finale, because I'm almost done with learning all my spells and whatnot. And, so yeah, all these reasons. Hey, Kefka. I can't do it. I have a friend of mine that can do it. Anyways, all of my, I love it because, again, it's that wonderfully, quietly, subtle way you're not even supposed to consciously notice to make you think this is the last dungeon. Absolutely love the Undersea Palace. What else we got? I got a couple of notes about the Undersea Palace. Right. Undersea Palace is the first time you will see the enemies use triple text. It's actually one of the 3 position points in, like, the entire game where you will see the enemies use triple text. They don't do that particularly often. And and again, I hate to just keep bashing this hammer into the nail, or this nail into the wood here, but that again emphasizes the last dungeon nature of this place. Now, what am I trying to get at with all this? Well, it's simple. This game is brilliantly designed. Now, I know, that's probably like saying water is wet to some of you, but I really wanted to showcase my work and my results in explaining why this game is so brilliantly designed. Not just from a story perspective, but from a gameplay perspective. And I think this is one of the reasons why Chrono Trigger does not quite surpass Final Fantasy VI in my mind, but does approach it. Of all the many games I've played across all the, the 30-ish years I've been playing games, I guess it's a little less than 30 years now, this game just nails the gameplay design to the point where it's just phenomenal in how well they do it. And oh, you gotta be kidding me, really? Screw you. So take the tightly focused plot, the unique and interesting setting, the significant thematic storytelling, and then add that to fantastic gameplay. And honestly, that if I was to summarize Chrono Trigger in one sentence, that would probably be the sentence right there. Oh, so one other thing you may have or may not have noticed, there's blue, yellow, and red of these scout things. The Scouters, by the way, Dragon Ball joke. Anyways, they are weak to the damage type of their particular thing, and they also can cast tons of spells themselves, up to and including casting a triple tech. They can actually cast Delta Force. Under certain circumstances, it is possible to not have that triple tech at this point in time, but as I already described, that's pretty damned unlikely. You are very, very likely to have that suit by this point in time. Or that suit, God, words, that tech, that triple tech. Sorry, I still have a bit of a headache. I'm working with it, guys. Give me He's got quiet, speed belt. Just checking everyone's stuff really quick. We've been getting some good loot in here, and I want to make sure we're set. Okay. Okay. God, I love this song. I love this song. I love the aesthetics of this place. Hands up, how many of you people would love to visit the Undersea Palace, like in real life, if you could? Titans. Shadow's right there, you don't have to step in for him, man, it's okay. And Luke is dead. Yeah, by the way, the enemies here do hurt quite a bit, as you can tell. Unlike, here's another interesting tidbit, and I talked about this during the level 1 task. In Final Fantasy VI, as I described, let's say an enemy encounter gives you 300 XP. So if you have 3 party members up, each party member gets 100 XP. It splits it evenly, right? Chrono Trigger does not do that. Chrono Trigger, if you have an encounter and it gives you 300 XP, then each party member gets 300 XP. It simultaneously makes it easier and more difficult in some ways, which I've talked about over there, and I don't really feel the need to reiterate. However, there's one other thing I want to talk about, gameplay-wise. Because, I mean, this is Chrono Trigger, and let's be honest, that gameplay number is going to keep going up. This game is often considered easier than most JRPGs by people who are JRPG, for lack of a better term, veterans. You know, people who've been playing them for however long up until this point in time. The reason why can be described by a single point. Mana, or in other words, MP. Whoops. Yep, that's right, the Masmune has been replaced. Or, excuse me, the Legendary Sword has been replaced. There are a redunculous amount of MP generating items in this game. I mean, I've got like 40 mid-ethers lying around. For a little bit of reference, a mid-ether restores a third of my maximum possible mana. I don't even have that much mana yet. At this point, a mid-ether restores half of my mana. Now, I probably should fight these things, because I'm, like I said, pretty underleveled here. So, there's a huge availability to spam, basically, magic in this game. Or I shouldn't even say magic, it's not necessarily magic, just things that cost mana, so all the text and whatnot, than there are in other games. And, as an addendum to that, as I talked about before, numbers-wise, up until you get to the level 50 plus stuff, dual techs are literally always going to be superior in terms of damage per mana and damage per turn use. So, between these two factors, most new players to this game are going to burn through this game because there's so many ways to, function in without having to worry about the things like you have to worry about in most other RPGs, like running out of mana. Whether that's a good thing or not, that's your call. I'm not going to tell you whether that's a good thing or not. That's not good or bad game design, that's just a choice. By contrast, several other FFs could be, several other RPGs could be considered to be much, much more difficult for literally the opposite reason. In other words, the only real variance between Chrono Trigger and them is the fact that the other games have a much more restrictive what you can do with your mana situation, much less mana restores, spells cost more, smaller resource pool of mana, that kind of a thing. In fact, I can name a specific game right now. Super Mario RPG is a game in which your flower points are actually quite a rare resource and therefore involves a significant more amount of strategy in order to be able to keep up skill usage. If you want to keep up your skill usage, you don't have to. In fact, my most often playstyle in Super Mario RPG is to basically ignore skills, except for certain bosses. Hey, Chaos Rider. Hi everyone, by the way. I know I've been yammering non-stop because it's the Undersea Palace and I absolutely love this section and I got lots to say like I told you. But hi. It is, as ever, nice to see you guys on my stream. I always feel really weird when I'm streaming and like there's basically no one here or there's no one talking back and I always feel like I'm talking to, my monitor or whatever. It gives me just that weird... It doesn't happen that often with my stream because my viewers are freaking amazing. But, every now and again, I'm like, what the heck? No, I do not, Olivia, because as we know, Piccolo was amazing, and Frog is awesome, and therefore Frog would be so awesome, he does not even need his arm. Hey, Nothrazim, what's up, man? Haven't seen you on in a little bit. Oh, by the way, guys, I've been meaning to share this with you. I've had this on my desk for forever. Does anyone remember when you guys voted for me to go get Chinese with my friend? This is like a few days ago. Well, we're actually going to skip the elevator for right now. Why am I bringing this up? Well, I got a fortune cookie. And first of all, I like to play the in the bathroom or in the bed game, as indeed most of my friends do. But that's not why I'm sharing this one. I'm sharing this one because I've never seen a fortune like this. You ready for this, guys? The fortune is, and I'm going to quote this word for word, actions speak louder than talks. So, for anybody out there who's curious, apparently actions speak louder than talks. Yeah, Samurai. So, before I continue forward, you can actually skip all these fights. I don't remember how. It's actually pretty tricky. I did it on the TAS. I don't remember how, to be completely honest. Okay, so at this point in time, like I just said, using multi-text is pretty much the way to go. You just have to decide which ones to use. Well, I just got an awesome ability, which I'm going to use like this. And as you can see, that just freaking murders the crap out of the enemies. Again, like I said, most people I've noticed this, and even a few of my viewers have done this, I've done this, we tend to experience long-term Chrono Trigger players tend to ignore dual and triple text because it's like, these are really stupid. I could do more damage with just individually attacking. Except, you can't early on, can you? That's a thing you can only do when you're high level. When you're still leveling and going through the game the first time, it's dual text that actually do more damage. You're right, Kefka. What I'm going to do from now on... Okay, did anyone out there see my my Voyager rumination about the episode Once Upon a Time? It was a little over a month ago now. There we go. That rumination, at the very beginning, At the very beginning, I performed an action, and from now on, that's just gonna be my rumination. So just like, damn it, you know. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but yeah. God, that damned episode. That would have been such a fantastic episode if not for frickin' Berman. It's so stupid because the further I get into Voyager, the more I hate Rick Berman. I already hated Rick Berman. Damn it, Bregman. I cast Heal 77 on you. But yeah, Silent Martyr, that is a good way to put it. It's New Game Plus syndrome, you know, the forgetting how the mechanics work early on. But there's another thing to be thought of there, which some people, I've noticed this in many, many different games that have levels at all. Here, I'm going to pause just for a minute to talk about this. I've seen this in WoW, I've seen this in Diablo, I've seen this in Asheron's Call, a few other RPGs and MMOs. In other words, people at the end game tend to think of things in terms of the end game and forget that the mechanics work a little bit differently early on. It's exactly what we were just talking about. Early on, hey Sophies, early on in Chrono Trigger, dual techs are better. Later on, single techs are better. It's very simple, and it functions that way because of how the game progresses, because of lateral power creep and because of vertical power creep, right? A lot of RPGs do that, and I've noticed a lot of people who are at endgame, or who are at, wait, you actually have Rick Berman's head? Oh my god, Kefka! Although, that makes sense. But a lot of gamers tend to, at endgame, look back at the first, you know, at the early stuff and think, well, why don't you do this? Or why aren't you doing that? Or why aren't you using this strategy or this ability? Forgetting that those abilities don't work the same early on. Let me give you another specific example here. In World of Warcraft, especially during BC, they introduced this brand new stat in BC. It was called Spell Power. You probably know what it is by now. But it was new in BC. It was actually introduced towards the end of Vanilla because of some weird stuff. But I don't want to get into too much into that. In BC, several specific things, for example, Priest Heals is a great example. In certain cases, certain of the actual spells they cast were simply better than the other ones, but only because of spell power. If you had the gear to stack spell power to the nth degree, suddenly you could cast these much more efficient spells and basically have infinite mana to push through forever, because those spells aren't supposed to actually heal for a lot, but your spell power is making up for that, right? So I actually had a specific example where a woman, who shall go nameless because she irritated the snot out of me, was on TeamSpeak one time and literally yelling, literally raising her voice at one of the other one of the other guildmates who happened to be leveling and was doing a dungeon with her, and she's like, why aren't you using this spell? It's the best spell in the game, blah, 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 blah. And of course, it doesn't work that way early on. It's a crap spell early on. So, just giving you guys a direct example of what I'm talking about. I have seen that a lot, again. Another good example in the modern era would be Diablo 3, where certain builds for Diablo 3 literally don't work unless you have the gear to back it up. So some people are like, why don't you use this build? And yeah, anyways. So... in case you're not paying attention here, what's happening in this scene is that the power of Lavos is channeling up through the best game ever, which is Diablo 3. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Is channeling up through the Mammon Machine and basically pouring into Shala. This is actually kind of important because it's very likely this is part of why what happens to Shala happens to Shala. It is absolutely certain that if we consider Chrono Cross canon, which I do not, at least not with regards to Trigger, that this is why that kind of thing happens, because Lavos had created this connection to her through the Mammon Machine. Also, I'd just like to say that Squaresoft has, for many years, it literally since the beginning, preferred to go back and, you know what, screw it. Preferred to go back and use significant terminology from mythology and history and all that kind of thing in order to name things. So to give you a direct example, I mean, you know, they called this thing the Mammon Machine, and you know, there's a lot of significance there. But basically, the general idea of Mammon is greed, etc. I mean, there is more complexity to that, and I'm intentionally skipping through it. But the point is, the machine of greed perfectly suits this device, considering that the Kingdom of Zeal already had such tremendous power and ability and scope and significance with regards to social, social structure, and they weren't wanting for hunger. They didn't have problems with. They didn't have poverty. None of those problems. And then they're like, you know what? We kind of want more. And yeah, he did. You check it out. Whatever. Excuse me. Let me check my notes over here. Let's see. I already talked about the palace. Hey, Stars of the Ocean. Triple tags. I already talked about dungeon. See you around, Samurai. I guess I actually have all the notes I wanted to say about the Undersea Palace, although there is kind of one final note, but I want to save that till we're at the end of the palace. And I got to beat these without the ability to cast water damage, so that's going to be irritating, so we're just going to push through these here. Hello, Evil Pop-Tart. You know, I'd figure an Evil Pop-Tart would taste really good. Like, it's like one of those covered in chocolate, really, really bad for you kind of Pop-Tarts, you know, it's just like, oh, yes. Maybe I just think in a weird direction, I don't know. Because it'd be too obvious for a Evil Pop-Tart to be, you know, bad tasting. They really want to sucker you in and then be like, and then we will destroy your arteries. Excuse me. So, fun little fact. I have one more thing to say about you know what? Let's just hit everything. Or I can't. That's acceptable, I suppose. Fortunately, I have lots of mini-ethers. Evil Pop-Tarts are made out of people. That explains why they taste so good. No, I'm kidding. I'm not a cannibal, I think. There we go. This sequence is a mini-boss. Now, they've actually done this before in the factory, way back in 2900 AD, towards the beginning of the game. there are several parts in the game where they deliberately have a sequence like this, where you are effectively fighting a mini-boss. Now, if you don't understand what I mean by that, think about this from a purely gameplay perspective. We are fighting... No, Shadow. Witches don't eat. We are fighting multiple enemies in a single go. Notice we can't pause to heal in between fights. So even though it's separate fights, we can't actually recover each time. Hang on. No runners. And if you tally up, and again, I've got my notes on the side there, if you tally up the amount of health that all of these enemies have combined, it's pretty much right about the amount of health that, say, the Golem twins have. I am doing a full tilt, in-depth review of the game, Willy Walton, which I've never actually done before. It's doing it. Excuse me. I'm also having allergies, which is one of my favorite things to do. There we go. Now, they will actually do this technique several times further in the game as well, most notably in Genodome in 2300 AD. And they'll also do this in the Element a couple of times, and they'll do this one more time here in the elevator. By the way, in response to Little Billy's question, I'm pretty sure this is longer, because you could basically spend about a minute and some change going down the waterfall in FF6, whereas in this one, I'm pretty sure we've already passed the minute point. And you have fights like these, too, which I gotta admit, especially on New Game Plus, I tend to just be like, screw it! And I'll do Lightning 2 to kill the 2, even though it triggers the counter effects, or counterattacks. Water 2 to kill those 2, and Fire 2 to kill those 2, because I'm not patient, damn it! Admit it, some of you do that too. Be honest. You know, honestly, for all the... I've listed like 8 reasons why the Undersea Palace is brilliantly designed. I think it deserves another plus for the incredible amount of effort, time, and thought that they put into making the Undersea Palace the fake final dungeon that it is. It includes puzzles, it includes interesting dungeon design, it looks cool, etc., etc. My favorite Kefka is, without question, the GameCube one, and I hit the wrong button there. Olivia, what she was doing there was being artsy and pretentious. I'm dead serious. The actual developers of Chrono Cross went on their word to saying that the whole point of that was to make the player think of their real-life world and how it connected to you know, the world of Chrono Cross, and think maybe they were just living in another dimension adjacent to Chrono Cross or something like that. Because for those of you who haven't played Chrono Cross is kind of all about multiple different dimensions kind of coexisting alongside each other. So that's it. That's the reasoning. It's actually possible with good timing to get through here without actually fighting these guys. I don't remember how to do it off the top of my head, so we're not even gonna try here. And yeah, the music in this place is fantastic. Oh, speaking of which, the music has another plus for it. I think I actually am gonna give this another plus. The plus is there's no battle music for these sequences. In other words, the Undersea Palace music overrides, there we go, the battle music. If every single one of these encounters had switched to the battle music, it would feel less epic. Anytime you have a musical override in a game, it's usually done to some significance. In other words, the idea that this is, you know, relevant for some reason, either because you're in a major area or something significant in the plot's happening, or God knows what else. And they do that here. So again, and you're hearing it right now. There is no battle music. Now they do battle music in a couple of sections. The elevators are the good example of that. And the boss fight with the Golem twins is the other example. And yeah, Twilight Princess really should have done this. I love Twilight Princess, I really do. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But I really wish they didn't interrupt the frickin' music with the stupid combat theme. whatever. Hey, Fitzcott. What is up? But yeah, exactly, Evil Pop-Tart. It's like, oh god, you know. It's still going. Why is it still going? Maybe I have to, you know, touch. I really should stop filling out the map. I'm sorry, guys. It's kind of a habit. It's a must fill out the map. No, you didn't, Shadow. You and I have even talked about this. You actually really liked the first half of Twilight Princess. Don't lie. I remember that episode. Good episode overall. Okay, so we're about to fight the Golem Twins. I do not actually have the full gear set up to completely curb stomp these guys, but I do have a couple of tricks which are going to make this easier. So why don't we make sure... Hang on just a second. Put that on him. And I want you in that. I could not even possibly count, excuse me, Silent Murder. I have played this game a lot. Now, in fairness, I have not played this game without New Game Plus that often. If I were to like make a chart of how, you know, or a pie chart of how many times I've played this game New Game Plus, and how many times I've played this, you know, legit, like I'm doing right now, the legit would be like 5% at best, and the other 95% of the time is me New Game Plusing through it. I don't apologize for that because it's New Game Plus and it's an awesome feature and I love playing through it, but yeah. But when the DS version came out, it was like, oh man, I love playing through this again. And I've been really enjoying going through this playthrough, as well as the one I did last year for the marathon, so all some fun stuff there. Let's go ahead and get, actually, no, that'll do. There are 2 games, well, technically 3, if I'm being honest, that I've played more than any other in the world. This is one of them. Final Fantasy VI is the other one, and World of Warcraft is the third one, although that one's technically cheating because it's an MMO. But yeah. Alright, so, big strategy. This is it, guys. I hope whoever was having trouble on the Golem Twins earlier is watching, because they actually mentioned they wanted to be here for that this section. So here we go, Golem Twins fight. This is often considered the second, or third, depending on how you think of it, real barrier of difficulty in the game. The first one being the Hecarim, the second one being the Magus fight. This is the third time the game's just been like, alright, I'm just going to start punching you in the face. I'm going to explain why this fight is so difficult in brief here. You ready for this? The golems have a pattern to their thing. It's actually just like Dalton. They are 100% manipulatable. In other words, if you hit them with fire, they will hit you with a specific fire attack. If you hit them with physical, they'll hit you with a specific physical attack. Water and lightning are the same damn thing, and shadow. So no matter what, they are completely controllable. Actually, Silent Martyr, I agree with you, but only the first time through, and I don't even mean New Game Plus. Ever since I tasked and spedrun this game, I realized just how incredibly easy Gigagai actually is, and I never realized that the first time. But I will agree, first time through, Gigagai is definitely a hard boss. So that's how the golems fight. So no matter what you do, you are making them stronger in some ways or not. You are basically determining how they are going to fight you. By the way, they call the golems sisters in this version. Then there's 2 of them. And that's really where the difficulty comes in. The fact that you've got 2 of these guys, so you have a lot of tactical options of exactly what you want to do, and all of them result in you getting mauled. So it's really obvious why this fight is as difficult as it is. So we need to get going like right fricking now. Oh, there it is. See, oh, okay, he's not dead. We're gonna go ahead and blow a couple things here. So they're actually weak to Hypno. As you can see there on the left, he's actually sleeping. Hands up, how many of you out there actually knew that before I showed it off, either during the task or this stream or whatever? Hey, Fat Squeak. So he's gonna keep having me. I need to get him off of physical attacks like right frickin' now. I need to get him on fire attacks. Fire attacks are by far his weakest attack, And this is important, you have the ability at this point in time to be, to really, really reduce the amount of fire damage you take. Watch this. 23 damage from his fire attack. That's nothing. Okay, we'll go and blow a lapis while we're at it. So we're just going to keep firing him for a little bit as we recover our health. Notice the left guy is still slept, and indeed probably will be for a while. Now what you want to do... Here, hang on. Okay, so I want him to do that fire attack. I want to hit him twice. Get my hits in with my 2 physical damage. And then do fire. I prefer fire personally, Silent Miter, because it's easier to get multiple armors that reduce or negate fire damage. Even at this point, I haven't even gone back to 65 million BC to get all the red plates that I could get right now, and I could get 3 red plates right now. It's really not hard. It just involves a little bit of grinding the hunting range. But even at this point in time, I have 3 pieces of gear that prevent, or rather reduce the amount of fire damage I take. And as you can see, his fire hits are barely hitting me at all. And this is the strategy for the Golem Twins right here, Progressive. Hit, fire. And then he's going to be like, whatcha? I prefer Frog for this because he has heal. And heal is a nice, cheap AoE heal. Now, in a New Game Plus, you could just maul these guys with whatever, but even if you're low level in New Game Plus, you have the possibility of having multiple of other mails or other plates, which enable you to absorb whatever, and therefore control them in whatever direction you want. So yeah, the Golem Twins, this is another example of Chrono Trigger's brilliant game design, by the way. This fight is so hard the first time you fight it. The second time you fight it, or I shouldn't say the second time, but once you understand how to really control the fight, it's a joke. This fight is incredibly easy. As you can see, I am just casually crushing these guys. I'm playing with them at this point in time. But that's only because I actually understand the mechanics of this fight, and you can only really do that after a secondary playthrough, which is another reason why New Game Plus is awesome, because it's not just the fact that you'll be able to go through at super high level. It's the fact that you'll be able to go through here multiple times. You are encouraged to replay the game, and you have a greater chance of understanding the mechanics and the ways that the bosses work, and then you go like, oh, and so when you go back through it with a normal playthrough, you could use those in order to make the boss fight too. So yeah, now one of the twins is dead. The other one has slept the entire time. And then we just repeat the same process on him. Although we're going to do something slightly different now that one of them is dead. We are going to pull out this spell, which I believe is counted as fire damage. We'll actually find out, because I don't remember. Bam! Yep, fire damage. That's so wrong. My favorite character in Chrono Trigger is Shala. Easy answer. Ah, I didn't get it quickly enough. Oh, you mean playable character? That's a little different. I have to think about that one. Frog probably is going to take it, though, I mean, because it's freaking Frog. Frog is awesome from a gameplay and a story perspective, and it's kind of rare to see that in a game. Most often you see a character... Hi, Sethos. Bye, Sethos. Most often, a character... like, there are several characters I can name that I really enjoy from a purely gameplay perspective, and there are some characters I really enjoy from a purely lore perspective. A good example of this is actually Setzer in Final Fantasy VI, who is among my favorite characters in FF6. In gameplay terms, he's kind of pathetic unless you do the cheat thing with the fixed dice, which I talked about last week. Nope, we're out of... Once again, notice how I am just burning mana on this guy, because I can. Because Chrono Trigger is designed for you to burn and just constantly be crushing techs. And we win. They're dead. Now, Progressive, in case you missed it, I'm going to showcase all the red equipment I have. You ready for this? Hang on. first we got to see Dalton, who's like, oh no, I have to bring out the Golem boss. But then he realizes that Lavos' energy is pouring out, and surprisingly, this is hilarious to me, Dalton shows that he has more of a brains than most of the other people here, and bails. I kind of wish this was actually an exit portal for us, just like it was an entrance portal the first time, but, yeah, whatever. So, right. So there's the Ruby Vest. You could get this pretty easily because Isla gets it. I think she comes with it, actually. So you're pretty guaranteed to have the Ruby Vest. That only halves fire damage instead of absorbs it, but that still works. And Tabin's Vest, which you get simply by talking to Tabin basically at any point after returning from the Hecarim Cave. Tabin's Vest is actually way, way weaker in terms of, like, I mean, look at how much less defense that has. But you don't care about defense for this fight. You care about fire damage, and this halves fire damage. If I had actually bothered to go to 65 million BC and hunt up a bit, I could actually be absorbing fire damage at this point in time and just completely crush stomp everything. So why don't we do? So we're gonna switch things around a little bit here. Give her something a little bit more useful. To my knowledge, Dalton is not named after anyone specific, but I could be completely wrong. I do know the Arrow Dalton Imperial is named after something specific. Hey Atheru, and hey Fearsome. Ready for the big cutscene? Now, I have a lot to talk about in the upcoming section, but some of that actually has to wait until after the Blackbird. But I will say, this right here, this is poetry. This new here says, you know, you need to turn back, you need to go away, you need to not deal with this. Why is this poetic? Because you have no option to do that. This is not Morrowind. This is not, I can't even think of another example of a game off the top of my head. This is not, you know, the old Baldur's Gates or Planescape Torment or anything like that. You cannot avoid this. This is purely linear. Now, note that I'm not complaining, but I want you to keep this in mind because a lot of Chrono Trigger up until this point in time has been trying and actively trying to trick you into thinking that the game is not linear when it actually is. This is the moment at which the developers practically say flat out to the player, no. This is a linear game, and you're just going to live with this. Siran knows us. This is when the power from the Mammoth Machine literally starts feedbacking into Shala. That would be interesting, Kaon, if you're right about the new. Oh, this scene. So we take the red knife, which was created from the Dreamstone. The Mammon Machine was also created from Dreamstone. The red knife also literally is Massa Immune, or however you want to pronounce them. And they shove themselves into it and actually become, the Mazmune. In case you're paying attention, this is actually a hugely important lore point, ignoring the obvious fact that this is when the Mazmune first became a thing. The Mazmune is literally the perfect hybrid of natural and artificial. The red stone, the Dreamstone, is the natural, element of life, of the world, right? It's the thing that enabled people to grow and learn and otherwise have life bloom. As has been theorized, it is possible Dreamstone is literally like an elemental crystal from like the Final Fantasy series, except instead of being elemental, it is of life. It is a crystal of life, just the one crystal, right? We don't know if that's true or not, but it fits a lot of the pieces, and is, no matter how you think of it, Dreamstone is absolutely a representative of the natural side of the world. So the red knife interacts with the Mammon Machine and has Lavos' power pour into it. Lavos' power is alien. artificial. It does not belong in the natural world. I actually don't know how to pronounce Mazmune properly. I have heard it pronounced properly before. Mazmune is incorrect, and I know that. I just don't care. So this is, like I said, the Mazmune itself is a perfect hybrid of these two things, and that itself indicates the overall, one of the greatest overall significances of Chrono Trigger. Remember, towards the end of the game, we learned that Lavos has encouraged human development. It has ensured that we develop magic and technology and all these things in line with exactly what Lavos requires in order to go ahead and grow, spread its seeds, and move on to another world, right? I mention this because, obviously, at one point you could say that and say, well, all of our life is a lie. Everything we've ever done is pointless because it's all been just us being livestock, bred for the slaughter, right? But the point of the game, and the thing that they really go out of their way to emphasize, is that even though we have been given this power, this knowledge, this magic, this technology, this societal progression from a frankly evil source, we can still use that for good. We can still accomplish good with it. In other words, I love this in its simplicity. It's how you use it, not what it is. In other words, a thing is not inherently evil. Power is not inherently evil or corruptive. Money is not inherently evil or corruptive. A concept is not inherently evil or corruptive. This is a concept I see in several other games. In this great power, this knowledge, this technology that Lavos has given us is not inherently evil. It is how we use it that matters, and I love that theme of this game, and this game is definitely another plus to story for that wonderful, wonderful element to it. Personally, Keon, I think Isla can hurt Lavos because she's Isla. But in all seriousness, though, Isla is probably, amongst the party members, the greatest representation of natural power. So this is awesome! If you don't understand, let me explain, okay? Because this you gotta get this. Too many RPGs out there here. We're gonna pause just for a second, because I gotta say this because he's literally about to one-shot me. Too many RPGs out there will have you fight a boss, or a lost boss. You know, they'll show you some glimpse of the big villain. Several RPGs do this, and sometimes they'll let you live. I mean, I'm trying to think of another good example of this off the top of my head, and I'm actually kind of failing, but whatever, you get the idea, right? Several RPGs and games do this. Chrono Trigger, but let me revise. Most of those games make it a deliberate you can't lose fight. Or excuse me, you can't win fight. In other words, remember how we fought the Guardian in Vector and in Thamasa in Final Fantasy VI? No matter what you do to it, you're doing 0 damage. Now, yes, there are bugs and glitches you can do to kill it, but that doesn't accomplish anything. But the point is, you cannot actually kill the Guardian, right? It is a forced-to-lose fight, even though you're actually fighting it. In a lot of more modern games, you actually encounter something that is just pure cutscene. It's like, oh my god, here's the thing, and we must fight it, and it's just a cutscene, right? So you know you're going to lose. What they do here is perfect, because for about 3 seconds the player is tricked. This is the second to last big trick they play on the player. They're like, hey, here we go. This is actually Lavos. The actual thing pops up. The actual, command pops up. You're actually ready to fight him. And again, this isn't really a lie. You can defeat Lavos here. Hi, Myken. You can actually beat him. This is what is often considered the hard mode of the game, because if you actually defeat this guy, Lavos here has improved stats compared to Lavos later in the game. And he has one spell that functions a little bit differently than later. He has his Destruction Rains from the Heavens spell. There's actually 2 versions of this spell in code. The one here, the amount of damage it does is directly proportionate to your level, and nothing else. In other words, the higher level you are, the less damage it does. At the level I'm at, which is like 20-something, it will do 4 digits of damage. I can't even have 4 digits of health. So they do this pretty much specifically and clearly to emphasize that, no, really, you are completely powerless and hopeless before Lavos. Keep that in mind. You cannot beat Lavos. At least, okay, I'm lying. You can beat Lavos here, but the idea is to emphasize to the player, especially the first time playing, Lavos is beyond you. That's what it's trying to emphasize. You can't even scratch this guy. So Magus reveals himself. Note that this is Magus at full tilt power, although he won't be for long. Yeah, story-wise, you can't beat Lavos here. Thank you. That's a better way to put it. Because gameplay-wise, you can. It is hard. You do have to have a nice, properly set up party because, again, he is stronger here than normal. But do I have 11 Krenzler? This scene kind of pisses me off because, in my opinion, Magus should have been focusing on Shala and saving her, not killing Lavos. However, as we'll talk about, Magus's character development, let's just say it makes a lot of sense. Now this is interesting because what Lavos is doing here is directly draining his own power out of Magus. In other words, if you're not paying attention, Magus's power, as indeed all magical power, stems from Lavos, so Lavos can retract that. However, he doesn't do that later on. Indeed, he never does that again, even though he could, theoretically. Why? I have a theory on that, and it basically boils down to one word. Zeal. Remember, in my opinion, Lavos is not even a creature. It's just a thing that acts and reacts based on its own prerogatives. It doesn't have the ability to think tactically or strategically. Zeal, on the other hand, is a person. And ergo, see you around, Marley. And ergo is someone who can actually think, Lavos, pull that away. And then Lavos can do it. Note that Lavos, for all intents and purposes, follows Zeal's commands. We'll talk about the symbiosis between Lavos and Zeal later on. So then, again, Lavos follows her commands, and rather than just killing them, starts to eat the party, kinda literally. So then we can talk to Magus, who is concerned about Shala, who is, of course, saying, you need to run the hell away. Why not do as Shala says and run away, tail betwixt your legs? Is your life not precious to you? I gotta pause for a moment. This moment blew me away when I first saw it. This was just, whoa, I can't believe they did this. Remember, Chrono is an avatar character. He is supposed to be a character that you, the player, kind of push your personality onto. He has no lines. He has very little actions that really define him. This is, again, the Dragon Quest norm. How often do you think in a Dragon Quest game, or a Final Fantasy game, you see the main character do this? Yeah. Yeah, Magus, shut up. I don't think that cutscene's pretty good, in my honest opinion. Although I've explained why. But yeah, they have had party death before. I mean, as far back as Final Fantasy II, party member death has happened. But a main character? Especially a player avatar character? At the very beginning of the game, Chrono picks up Marl's pendant. He never actually puts it down from that point onwards. Do note that Chrono's death here would mean nothing if not the fact that he had the pendant. However, without the pendant, or excuse me, even with the pendant, Without Chrono's death, this gesture would have been equally meaningless. Chrono's death distracted Lavos sufficiently long for the pendant to use its power, the power of Shala, in order to get the party to safety, and he dies saving his friends. Now, obviously he doesn't actually die. I agree, by the way, Canon, really. So at this point in time, Magus is in what we like to call a despair moment.